How would you improve Instagram stories? Hey everyone, welcome back to another Exponent Product Management mock interview. My name's Kevin Wei, and on today's show we have Janine. We're going to be doing a product design question, which we'll get to shortly. But first, Janine, do you mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Janine Ko and I'm a product manager at Microsoft Teams. Before PM, I pivoted from pre-med to PM and scaled Janine the Tutor for an edtech startup. Now I lead a bunch of amazing features in the meeting lifecycle, engagement and extensibility space, and drive retention, growth, strategy, and monetization for the Teams ecosystem.
Cool, thanks Janine. We're really excited to have you on today's show. We're going to be doing a product design question, and this is what we'll do. How would you improve Instagram stories?
That's really a great question. But before we get into the question, I just wanted to be mindful that when we say Instagram stories, we're trying to look at, the content creation part and also the viewing experience. So when you go to the Instagram app, you're able to create a story through photo or video. And then we allow users to, select stickers, polls, Q&A. And then they're able to share that story. It's ephemeral. It only lasts for 24 hours. And then on the other hand, for the viewing experience, as a user, I'm able to actually view stories. And then I'm able to react. I'm able to also, comment if, I want to reciprocate of what the creator is creating. And then on the other hand, I'm also able to share this story to elsewhere. Is that the scope of Instagram stories? And then the last thing is, if let's say users want to have stories that go beyond 24 hours, they're able to include these stories on their profile and categorize them, based on, let's say an album or something.
Yeah, so we're on the same page. Thanks for clarifying and making sure that our heads are in the same place about what Instagram stories is. Maybe we can skip the whole leaving on your profile portion and just focus on Instagram stories in the creation and viewing experience that you first mentioned.
Makes sense. Cool. Before we, even solve this question and solve the problem, I wanted to just clarify a couple of things. So first, when it comes to the platform, so I'm assuming when you're creating an Instagram story, you're only allowed to do this on your mobile phone. However, when you're viewing a story, you're able to do this on mobile and on web. Now, because we want to improve the experience and really impact, a lot of users or majority of our users, does it make sense for us to actually improve the mobile experience before, improving web? Are we on the same page with mobile?
Yeah, we can focus on mobile here.
Cool. Now looking into geography, are we targeting a specific city, a specific market like Latam, APAC? Are we targeting, Instagrammable cities, suburbs? And I think, from a PM point of view, it makes sense for us to actually go after Instagrammable cities like New York City. Does it make sense for us to go and target that? Just because, again, when we launch this improvement, we want to make sure we impact the most number of users of our platform.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about why we might want to tackle New York. We can start here, cities like New York, and then expand the scope if we have time.
Next, I wanted to clarify, I recently learned that we actually launched Ray-Ban smart glasses. You're able to capture stories through the Ray-Ban smart glasses. Are we thinking of improving, the software experience first? Just because I think because we launched the hardware experience and the software experience, maybe we need to bake it and just get more feedback from our users so that we can actually iterate on, the hardware experience. Does it make sense for us to just focus on software first?
Yeah, we can focus on software for now. And thanks for the clarifying questions. Let's assume that the team is now waiting for you to kind of tell them what the improvement should be that they should build. So maybe we can assume that these are the assumptions you have. If you have any other assumptions, feel free to make them, and then we can move on to the next step.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to clarify is just the budget and timeline. So for the sake of this interview, can we just have unlimited budget, which is not really a reflection of the ideal scenario? Unlimited budget, no constraints.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so I'd like to jump in and talk about, the mission of the company. So now it's apparently called Meta. So mission of Meta, mission of Instagram stories of our team, and making sure that we actually align with the company. And then I'll talk about who are we trying to improve this experience. So users, thinking about what are the problems that they're actually facing, and then talking about, what are the solutions to actually solve those pain points and problems. And then thinking about what does our MVP look like when we launch this improvement, and then going after metrics as well, just to determine product health. And then we'll do a summary at the end, just to make sure, this is the plan that we want to move forward with. Does that sound good?
Yeah, thanks for checking in. This sounds like a good structure.
Awesome. So the mission of Meta is we provide users the tools to be able to become closer together. And then on the other hand, the mission of Instagram stories, or as a team, is we are providing this tool, which is Instagram story, as a way for users to uniquely express themselves and, become closer together. I'm just going to take a moment, to think about our users, just really focus on who are we trying to solve this problem.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of users, I think, majority of the users of Instagram in general would be Gen Z. And then maybe a part of that would also be millennials and then boomers. And the reason why I actually segmented, our users based on the age group is because I think it would apply to any vertical that we get into, whether that would be music or, celebrities or tech or stocks or, all those verticals. And because we want to launch this improvement and really target, majority of our users, I think it makes sense for us to actually go and target Gen Z first, and then, going after millennials and then boomers at the end. Does that make sense?
I think segmenting by age is one way to do this. Which one would you choose?
I would choose the Gen Z one because we want to make sure that we keep majority of our users using our platform, because that's where, the bulk of our engagement and revenue will come from.
And is there any reason you wouldn't choose millennials or baby boomers?
They have very different behaviors. So I think it really depends on, what exactly the problem that we're trying to solve here. But because I think if we want to just improve the experience, for stories, and seeing that Gen Z, assuming that Gen Z, uses stories more than, millennials and boomers, I think it just makes sense for us to go after Gen Z.
Okay, so you're targeting based on opportunity and because Gen Z has the most usage on Instagram.
Yes, that's right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Because we also want to make sure that we have, the highest adoption.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to think about, pain points and then get into the solutions.
Cool.
Okay, so looking at the pain points, now that we've seen that, one of our competitors, which is TikTok, has immensely grew, during 2021, during the pandemic. And so maybe there was a decrease in usage and just stickiness in general on Instagram stories. And as a result, there was a traffic shift, to compete products. So I was thinking, as a result of that, maybe we saw a decrease in usage and stickiness, even in close friends as well. And then because it's a cascade of events, now that we see that users are not spending a lot of time, using Instagram stories or Instagram in general, there could be a decrease in revenue. And then maybe, we launch a couple of, stickers and fun ways to actually express yourself, but maybe users don't feel that they're seen or represented. Because at the end of the day, going back to the mission of our team is we want to make sure users feel that they're able to uniquely express themselves.
Got it. So the first pain point is around not being able to connect as much with your close friends.
Yes, exactly. So not being able to connect with your close friends, and because of that, there was a decrease in usage.
Okay.
And maybe that just affects, the feature holistically. Because if you see a decrease in usage for close friends, then that means there could be a decrease, in the overall Instagram stories usage.
Got it.
Do you have any other questions? Are we on the same page?
Yeah, thanks for checking in. I'm just reading through your pain points here. It looks like these are really like centered around the business pain points. I'm wondering if like maybe you can tie these and tell me why, like how you came up with these after choosing the Gen Z segment.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think, if we see, and I think it's a time thing too. So like, for example, in 2021, I think we just have to be cautious of what our competitors are doing, and be able to tie, there could be an external factor, right, in terms of why we're trying to solve this experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Why don't we look at the second bullet point? It looks like you typed decrease in revenue, and maybe you can tell me how like you came to this as a pain point after picking Gen Z as a segment.
Right. So because majority of our users, are Gen Z, so I'm assuming that if Gen Z are not spending a lot of time, on Instagram stories, and I'm, as far as I know, whenever you're viewing a story, you're actually able to see ads in between as you scroll through, people's stories. So I think because they're not, spending time, watching Instagram stories, maybe that is affecting the revenue of Instagram.
Okay, so this is tied to a decrease in time spent. Therefore, there's a decrease in revenue. Maybe maybe we can go even deeper here. Like, why do you think there's a decrease in time spent?
And
Maybe
feel free to,
yeah, okay. Let me just clarify. So because there's a decrease in time spent, maybe users are just not engaged, not as engaged as they were before.
Totally, yeah. Feel free to take some time if you need, but maybe we can think deeper about why there's lower engagement. What I'm trying to get at are like, what are the specific pain points that are for Gen Z, since we're trying to solve the product for Gen Z?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, maybe give me some time if that's possible so I can think this through.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Kevin, now that I've taken a step back, and thinking about the pain points I've listed, we really focus a lot on, the business problems. I think now it's important to actually focus on Gen Z, which, I think three things actually stood out to me. So there was a decrease in usage and just stickiness due to compete products like TikTok. We've seen aggressive growth, over the pandemic. And as a result, there could be a decrease in close friends for usage and also stickiness of using close friends. Looking into, there could be a decrease in trust for Meta as well. And as a result, it's a cascade of events. We see a decrease in engagement, time spent on Instagram stories, and then looking into revenue, because I'm assuming that whenever you're viewing a story, there are ads that are coupled in between each story. Looking into the tools of Instagram stories that we have today, maybe they're not unique enough to actually make users feel seen and represented. So are these pain points, valid? Do you feel that we're missing anything?
Got it, this makes sense. So it looks like the first one is usage for close friends for Gen Z. The second one is around a decrease in trust in the Gen Z group. And the third one is Gen Z wanting to feel seen and wanting to feel represented because they are not able to do so with the current tooling. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm wondering, to move on to solutioning, like how would you choose which pain point you might want to prioritize?
I think it makes sense for us to actually look into improving the close friends experience, because that's going to influence Instagram stories usage. And then at the same time, we might gain the trust of Gen Z because they will, probably feel more engaged using our products, and then increase their time spent on the platform. And as a result, this is going to influence revenue. Because I think if we're looking at tools right now, it's only going to solve a part of the problem. So I
yeah,
think
that makes sense.
focusing on the impact here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks for describing that network effect for me. Yeah, I'm curious to see how you would solution this.
Cool. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to think about, what we can do to improve close friends. Now, these are the solutions I've came up with. So we allow Gen Z to collaborate before and after creating a story, just because it's very siloed whenever you're creating a story. And then looking into maybe there's a way for us to remind Gen Z to create a story beforehand, for a special event for their friends or whoever that is. And then the third one I'm looking at is maybe there's a way for us to gamify things to motivate Gen Z to continue creating, viewing, and sharing, just to increase, the frequency of them using Instagram stories.
Got it. Can we talk a little bit more about collaborating? Like what do you mean by before and after?
Right. So when I say collaborating, maybe there's a way for Gen Z to, let's say, instead of just creating a story, snapping a video or photo on your own, maybe there's a way for us to actually incorporate, a group of friends. So within close friends, you can send this, pass this to your friend, record, and then pass it along again to me so I can add my own, recording or stickers. So that's what I mean by collaboration, allowing your friends to be able to add stickers. So it's not only one person who's doing the job.
Got it. So it's kind of like a Google Doc for Gen Z to make stories.
Yes.
Cool, with their close friends. Okay, and then for the second one, you mentioned reminding Gen Z to create a story for a special event. How would that look like?
So I think in terms of reminding, maybe there's a way for us to integrate user education within our platform. So let's say, we know that someone is celebrating their birthday. So let's say we have the filter for close friends. We know that, let's say you're part of my close friends, and we know when Kevin's birthday is. So maybe, 2 days before your birthday, there's a way for us to actually tell, people who are within the close friends that, hey, your friend's birthday is upcoming. Do you want to do something for your friend?
Cool. Makes sense. Maybe we can like work with push notifications or something like that here.
Right. I did want to call out though, when we say notifications, we just have to be very mindful that we're not overstepping, users' boundaries, because I think the least thing that users would want is more notifications.
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. And the last one is gamifying to motivate Gen Z to create, view, share. Can you tell me like what this feature looks like?
Right. So I was just thinking maybe, in terms of creating, so let's say when you post a story, you get a reward or something, and I haven't finalized what that reward is. I do think we need, user feedback to be able to understand, what really ticks users to keep on creating. And then, in terms of viewing and sharing, maybe there's a way for us to motivate users to, view and also be able to react and, leave comments or reciprocate with the content creator. And then, let's say if they share this story with their friend, maybe they get something as a reward too.
Got it. So if you were to pick one solution, let's say I know in the beginning we mentioned we have unlimited resources, but let's say that we can only pick one solution for the team to build. Which one would that be? And can you tell me like what your criteria was to think about that?
Right. I think it would be great if we can just implement the collaboration aspect. So now we do have that during aspect. So now we are allowing users to, create, but at the same time, I think we have to focus on, what's happening before and what's happening after. So when I say after too, that means, for example, if let's say we were to allow, Janine, for instance, to be able to create a story, and then let's say Stephen is also collaborating and including his stuff on that story, and then we send it to Kevin, who's the birthday celebrant. After Kevin, receives that, the collaboration doesn't end. So, maybe there's a way for us to, tie things together and then, thank each other, for sending that or something like that, or like, let's say a confetti or something, to just show that, it's the whole user experience, or user journey from before and then during the content creation and then after. So there could be like confetti or whatever that is.
And do you see this being used like just for special events, or do you think that Gen Z would use this for everyday stories?
Right. So I think it makes sense for us to target a niche first, which is special events. And then if we do see adoption, maybe we can improve upon that experience. Because I think day to day, there's a way for people to collaborate, and at the same time, we want to bring people closer together. And collaboration is a way to bring people closer together. And then I just wanted to talk about the two other solutions I've listed. So reminding Gen Z to create a story, I think it makes sense for us to implement the collaboration first, and then maybe in the future, if we do see, maybe there's a low adoption, then we can remind Gen Z to, create that story. And then for gamifying things, I think we're just burning it. It may seem like we're burning cash here or rewards. So I think it might not be sustainable in the long term for when we scale.
Got it. And if you were to pick like one North Star metric for this collaboration feature, what would that look like?
Okay, so just going back to the North Star metric, I think it makes sense for us to focus on the number of stories collaborated and posted. So it's really important that we don't see a drop off, during collaboration. Maybe there could be some user conflict, let's say things weren't put in, before the due date. So I think it needs to be when users or Gen Zs collaborate and then they post the story, and that other, I guess, individual, within the close friends get to see that story.
Yeah, that makes sense. Number of stories that were posted that were made through collaborations makes sense here. I agree with you. Like, it doesn't really matter how many times users maybe use some of the tools. It doesn't matter how many times they send it to other friends. If it never gets posted, the feature is a failure. Because ultimately we are trying to improve engagement here, right, for stories.
Right.
Cool.
Just to go back a little bit, I did type in collaborated and posted, but I think it needs to be viewed as well to really get that North Star. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the other person also reciprocates. It's a two-way thing. That's what collaboration is.
Totally, yeah. If stories are not being viewed, maybe they're not quality stories. Maybe we have to debug something in the tool. But yeah, that's a good North Star metric. Was there anything else you wanted to summarize before we end the mock?
I think there's a couple of proxy metrics that I just wanted to discuss. Let's say frequency of posting, because at the end of the day, it's not just a one-time thing. We want users, let's say we launch this improvement, we want users to be able to be repeat users, right? Like, be able to collaborate on a story again and then post that, and making sure that the other person views that. Looking into the number of users as well who are creating the story, and maybe segmenting, is it going to be the same type of people? Typically, are they people who are content creators, or are they viewers too? Because let's say if we get viewers converted into content creators, I think that would be also a win-win for Instagram stories. Looking into the number of users who, let's say, were to view a story, right, and then comment, react, and also send that to other people. So I think those are some things that is very important to look at, or some things that are very important.
Yeah, thanks for the proxy metrics there, and thanks for the great mock. So I have one piece of advice, but I'd also love if you could tell the audience some advice on pivoting to PM. I think you have a really interesting story there. So the one piece of advice I have for you is I really like the solutions. Regarding the gamification one, you didn't really dive deep into what this would look like. So if you were to pick one, maybe just pick rewards as a way to motivate users. You can just pick that and stick to it. But all in all, great solutions. I really liked how you approached this in a very structured manner. And if you have any advice for the audience, anyone who might be pivoting into PM from another career, what would you say to them?
Right. Okay, so before we even get to the advice, I know I wrote up, a competitive landscape, and the reason why, we're going after Gen Z, I just wanted to give the summary, is because we've seen Snapchat stories. The reason why we actually stood a chance on the market is they implemented a redesign, specifically for other age groups such as millennials and boomers, and Gen Z just didn't like that idea, and so they detracted from Snapchat. And that's why we were able to capture market share. And even for Twitter fleets, Twitter is very text heavy base. So implementing, a photo and video is something like it could be a shock to the users. So I think these are just some learnings that we need to take into account whenever we're launching, features like this. Cool.
Makes sense.
As for advice, I think, pivoting is always hard, but I think it's just a matter of learning how to mock interview like a PM, thinking about, or thinking outside of the box. So like, what are our competitors doing? Keeping yourself updated in terms of what's happening in tech, I think is very helpful. Like for example, Facebook were to change their name, Meta, you should know this, these current events whenever you come into a mock interview or in an actual interview rather.
Totally. Thanks for the advice. And for the viewers who are watching, good luck with your upcoming PM interview.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below to let us know that this video was valuable for you. And of course, check out hundreds more videos just like this at tryexponent.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your upcoming interview.